Hello and welcome to another episode of TV on TV. Today is Thursday, July 15th. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group, and on a scale of 1 to 10, our show today is going to be awesome. We've got Kathleen Scanlon as our guest. She is the Mothers Out Front State Co-Coordinator of the Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. And we're going to talk about Mothers Out Front and about climate and what individuals and the town and the state can do to really put a ding on it. But first, as always, the news. East Coast, unseasonable rains due to Hurricane Elsa. West Coast, scorching heat, wildfires, climate. The U.S. Senate returned from a recess this week, and the Democratic leaders are looking to pass two ambitious bills. One, a bipartisan infrastructure bill, and another which touches everything from corporate taxes to climate change. Billionaire entrepreneur Richard Branson completed a successful flight to the edge of space, narrowly losing to government programs by well over 50 years. As of Monday, the U.S. saw a 60% increase in COVID-19 cases over a 14-day period as the Delta variant continues to spread. In Massachusetts, that number is 85% increase. However, because of the state's high vaccination rate, hospitalization rates remain steady. And since January, only about 1.5% of the deaths have been folks who have been vaccinated. So the numbers are pretty clear there, folks. Do the math. On Friday, the Massachusetts House of Representatives and Senate enacted a final FY 2022 budget. My successful budget amendments for Brookline totaled $300,000, including $250,000 for the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health's Healthy Lives program, $25,000 to support the Brookline Community Foundation's Community Grant program, and $25,000 for Brookline's Steps to Success program. All three recipients are award-winning organizations that will continue to strengthen our community through their work. The final budget also includes a $60,000 grant for independent restaurants in Brookline to supply prepared meals to people who are food insecure, $100,000 for the Coolidge Corner Theater Foundation, $20,000 for the Brookline Senior Center's Alzheimer's Caregivers Respite Program, and $125,000 for the redesign of the intersection of VFW and South Street. On Saturday, Brookline celebrated the 100th year anniversary of the birth of Eunice Kennedy Shriver with a special program called Eunice Kennedy Shriver 100, a legacy of inclusion. Besides being born in Brookline as the fifth of 9 Kennedy children, Eunice founded the Special Olympics and was awarded a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Brookline will partner with the Brookline Community Foundation on a new racial equity fund, which seeks to advance local efforts toward equity by investing revenue from the town's cannabis dispensary. Originally conceptualized as a warrant article in the fall of 2019, the fund looks to launch in the next few months with $500,000 of seed money contributed by the select board. And, let's get into it. We're going to kick it over to an interview recorded just yesterday with town meeting member, Mothers Out Front, Brookline chapter co-founder, and great neighbor, Kathleen Scanlon. See you on the flip. And as promised today on Brookline Interactive Group, we've got Kathleen Scanlon, the Mothers Out Front co-coordinator of the Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. Kathleen, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Tommy. Nice to be here.
Kathleen, I ask every person on the show the same question right out of the gate. Tell us what you've been up to since birth. Like what's going on in your life?
Okay, well, I am originally from Chicago and with a stop in California, ended up here in Brookline. I've lived here about 15 years now. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I live with my family near the Lawrence School, and I'm an architect. I work mostly doing project management for local nonprofit projects. And I'm also a very active volunteer with Mothers Out Front. So I was the coordinator of that Brookline chapter for about 7 years, and I've moved on to the statewide campaign just this spring.
You've been a town meeting member for quite some time as well.
I have been, yes. So that's been about 8 years. Yeah, time flies.
You're an old timer by town meeting
I am.
standards. I think you remember the good old days of showing up in person and
Yes.
3-night town meetings and that sort of thing.
Right.
So like Mothers Out Front, no childless people allowed, right? No gentlemen allowed. What is Mothers Out Front?
I like to say it's for mothers and others. It's not just for mothers. We have plenty of people who don't have kids, but everyone has a mother. So everyone is welcomed. And Mothers Out Front started here in Brookline about, 2014. So I went to a house party and learned all about them, and formed the Brookline chapter with about 5 other women that I met at that party. And basically in 2014, there was a Globe story on gas leaks, and a bunch of Boston mothers were reading about it and formed an organization to get educated on it and spread awareness. And that's how Mothers Out Front was born. Right now, there's 43 teams in 5 states with about 35,000 members. So we're a big national organization. But here in Massachusetts, we have what we call 22 chapters, like the Brookline chapter, and that's about 11,000 members.
And so you mentioned gas leaks. Are you focused on safety, on air? What's the uniting cause for all of these mothers and others?
Well, we care about gas, and health and safety impacts are what we speak of with our mother's voice. And, there's no surprise that burning methane, which is the primary component of natural gas, creates dangerous indoor gas air pollution, and that harms our health. And children are particularly high risk of developing asthma and other respiratory ailments when this toxic fossil fuel is burned inside the home. And then, of course, gas leaks running in our pipes underneath our streets leaks and contributes methane to the atmosphere. And so we're very concerned about all the leaks that just aren't getting fixed by the utilities.
So it's not just about climate change, it's about local air pollution, it's about safety, it's about being wasteful, right? The gas is leaking out, we're paying for it, but we're not getting any benefit from it. So there's a lot of different parts here.
That's right.
So the Brookline Mothers Out Front chapter is no longer just 5 people, it's much bigger than that. How did your organization do over the last 18 months? How are your members able to either struggle through or thrive in the pandemic conditions?
Well, I think like a lot of people, when the pandemic first hit, we were all very focused on our families, trying to figure out, how to balance everything, kids, everyone working remotely, trying to figure out, groceries and what the virus was about, really. So we took a brief break, and then I'd say by the summer of last year, a group of us were ready to start working on things again, and we were already pretty active tagging gas leaks before, and working on Brookline Green Electricity, which is a program opting up to more renewables in Brookline's energy mix. And we realized that we had to really organize digitally. So we got very focused on how we could connect online, not only with Zoom, with meetings, but also how we could engage people who were new and curious about Mothers Out Front or starting to work on climate, to engage in issues around Brookline, and how we could work to influence and connect with, decision makers in town and elsewhere, and just raise awareness. And so we focused on social media skills, developed a small group that met weekly through the last year and a half to really learn how Twitter and Facebook and Instagram can be, used to our advantage to get our message out. And, Mothers Out Front, I like to say that, we aren't necessarily the experts, but we're the megaphones. And so there's a lot of work you can do connecting digitally to get that message out. And that's what we really strive to learn, those skills, and organize in ways that we could meet weekly with members. So we developed these climate action calls. And every Thursday, we would organize a Zoom meeting, and we would pick a topic with an educational component. We'd organize some slides, could be, about composting or anything that our chapter was interested in working on. And then we would spend 10 minutes taking action. Sometimes it was on social media. Sometimes it was email about legislation we were interested in. Sometimes it was, a letter to the select board here in Brookline. And we would, take action together with, pre-planned actions that people could make a lot of impact in a short amount of time. And we organized it same time every Thursday, 10 o'clock. And we developed quite a bit of people who became interested in taking action. It felt really good. And we attracted, dozens of new members. So it's kind of a little success story. And we're replicating that across the state now with the statewide campaign too.
Well, I have no doubt that viewers are already enthusiastic about Mothers Out Front. So we'll ask now, probably ask again a little bit later, how does a mother or other in Brookline connect with Mothers Out Front and become part of the cool moms?
Well, we have a website, mothersoutfront.org, which is our whole nationwide, and you can find the teams section and find the Brookline chapter to reach out to us.
So folks can go on the web and become a part of it and start working on these issues. I want to know a little bit more though about the Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. What are we talking about there? What's dirty heat, clean heat? What are you talking about?
Well, here in Massachusetts, there are more than, 1 million homes heated with utility gas in Massachusetts. And it's no surprise that methane is, the dangerous, gas that we're trying to get rid of. But given the climate bill that just passed, we need to decrease emissions by 50% by 2030. And that's compared to 1990 levels. And we want to be net zero by 2050. So we're really at a crossroads with, lots of opportunities here in Massachusetts in terms of how we meet these targets with so many great, things happening. The future of heat bill passed with important provisions around gas. There's pilots that are in place with micro districts. And, there's incentives in legislation and a financial mechanism to transition. And we're very concerned about a just transition with labor and with lower income households. And, we're really focused on providing a net zero stretch energy code to be adopted by municipalities. And that's a focus of Brookline's in particular.
Yeah, and I've been involved in some of those things as well at the state level. I'm going to take this moment to help folks understand that when we say net zero, while it's true that doesn't mean zero emissions everywhere, there are very few ways to create negative emissions. And so when you hear net zero by 2050, you need to think no more fossil fuel power plants at all. No more gasoline or diesel powered vehicles at all. No more oil or natural gas fired heating systems in your homes or schools or office buildings at all. No more gas-fired or oil-fired water heaters in your basements at all. No more gas-fired dryers or cooktops at all by 2050. And so that's a long way away, but that's a lot of things that we need to find a new replacement for in that period of time. And so that's a lot of work. So how is this campaign going to work? How is this campaign going to be part of that solution?
Well, our campaign is specifically focused on halting the expansion of energy infrastructure that pollutes our air and warms our climate. And we want to enact systemic changes that will provide clean, safe, and affordable energy for heating our homes and buildings. So, our campaign is working with lots of state processes to, demand that the plans, the decarbonization plans that utilities have to present will actually be true decarbonization plans without any, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Tomfoolery,
Yeah,
chicanery,
shenanigans or anything,
shenanigans.
right, exactly. And so we want to make sure that it's truly clean heat that will be provided. And we want to make sure that, things like the Weymouth compressor station are closed. We want to plan for a just transition. And we want to retrofit old buildings for clean heat upgrades. So weatherization is a big part of it. We have a utility campaign called The Future of Clean Heat that will launch this fall. We're going to target utilities with postcards to make sure we get those clean plans. We have a large volume leak action toolkit that we're launching to get towns across Massachusetts, our chapters, to launch events that will get residents to care about natural gas and care about moving beyond natural gas with lots of actions.
So, most folks have in Massachusetts have natural gas or oil heat. Neither of those are clean, right? Despite the clean burning natural gas advertisements, right? That's not actually true. There's all sorts of, in addition to the carbon dioxide emissions, there's sort of these other nasty emissions going on. So we're talking like everybody's going to install a fireplace and heat their home all winter long with wood burn. Like what are examples of clean heating systems? What are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about promoting electrification. So we want to make sure that Mass Save has incentives for, solutions like heat pumps and not promoting fossil fuels.
So you're not talking about like the 1970s style electric baseboard heating that was really, really expensive to operate, because that's not a future folks are going to embrace.
Right, that's right. We're talking about air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps. We want to see that. We want to see weatherization. We want to see communities have demonstration projects where they're actually, Brookline's, done a lot. And so we're hoping that, other communities can actually have, all electric buildings. And as the price of gas increases in the years to come and the price of electricity goes down, the goal is really to build the most weather tight building and renovate existing buildings and then replace all the systems with electric systems so that, your energy demand is really low and then the costs come down. And that's the way to go, because we'll be greening that grid more and more. That work's already being done. And that's the way that we stop burning fossil fuels.
And so we've got these heat pumps on the market, and we have the understanding how to build or renovate tight buildings. But most people are thinking, I don't even know necessarily how my heating system works, but I know that it works. So how do you persuade people who have something that is heating their home, like functioning in that sense? How do you persuade them to remove something that works and pay for something else to replace it? Right? It's sort of like my car is perfectly good. Why would I get rid of it and get a new one, or something like that? How do you engage in customers in that way?
Well, we all have to plan ahead so that, when your system reaches the end of its useful life, you know where you're going next. And we have to stop doing what we've always been doing, which is, replacing those systems in kind with more fossil fuel. So understanding how to go towards electrification in your own home is a great first step. It's nice because when you do replace with heat pumps, you get air conditioning with that, which is gonna be more important as our climate warms up, and we've already experienced many heat waves already this summer. So that's going to be an important thing. Making sure that, you can take advantage of incentives to get your, house fully insulated and sealed as much as possible. That's also a great first step. Um, I think that the cost parity is already shown in research, so that when you do replace those systems, you can achieve cost parity. It's not all about operating, but it's the lifespan and it's the installation, and it's a lot of things that go into that equation. But it's not all about doing the same thing. That's what we're really trying to encourage people to get away from. Start talking to contractors and realize what your options are. There's lots of people who have already done this work, and getting familiar with it's another great first step.
And so that's sort of thinking about renovations, which is clearly a really difficult problem. But what about new construction, right? I mean, you're working hard to find old or already installed gas and oil systems and get them out and replace them with heat pumps. But in the meantime, builders are out there installing brand new gas systems. So that seems like you're chasing your tail forever. What's the plan for new construction?
Well, that is actually the low-hanging fruit. When it comes to new buildings, it's really a no-brainer. That really should be fossil fuel free, all electric systems going in right from the beginning. The hardest part is the renovations, and obviously the bulk of the work, because we have so many existing buildings. But brand new buildings should just be going in fossil fuel free. And it's something that Brookline's working very hard on. A group of us here in Brookline we've been working a couple of years now to get a fossil fuel free mandate on new construction and major renovations. And when I say major renovations, that's when it goes all the way down to the studs and you're, replacing all the insulation, all the systems, everything. So it's these really significant renovations. And once you're doing that kind of work, it makes all economic sense to get that work fossil fuel free. The other thing to consider is that you don't want to have stranded assets. We need to be off of fossil fuels in the next couple of decades. And why would you want to invest in a gas-fired system when prices are going to be coming down for electric? They're actually going to be flipping with gas. And why would you want to be installing that in your home when it's really going to be something that's going to have to be removed in order to meet climate targets?
So yeah, you raise a really important point, and that is that even if the magic of the utility and government made the switch from a fossil fuel system to a electric system in your home cash free, right? Like $0. It's still actually pretty disruptive, right? I mean, at best case, they're just in the basement and, it's not so bad, but you got to schedule it. You've got to, be around. They're going to create some dust. They're going to make some noise. And that's if everything goes well. Maybe it gets sort of worse than that. And so it's not just about the money. It's also about the time and the headaches that come with the work in your home. And so, I think there's something to be said for planning ahead. And, your furnace is not going to make it to 2050 if it's in your home today. So figure out when you're going to swap it out and make that happen sort of on your own time, probably in the spring, summer, or fall, not in the middle of winter, right? And so forth. So tell me a little more about, I know there are some limits to what the town can do because of jurisdictional issues. So what can the town do to help new construction be fossil fuel free in the boundaries of the town?
Well, there's lots of technology that is, we already have learned all about it for cold weather. We don't need to reinvent the wheel or, do any of that. What we want to do is get people to stop doing the same thing, stop putting in those same systems. A lot of people are, only familiar with gas, only familiar with oil. And a lot of times they really think that going from oil to gas is an environmental, upgrade. That's just not true. Natural gas is not this magical bridge to, fossil fuel free or anything.
The bridge to nowhere, I think, is the phrase made famous.
Yeah. So the town could do a lot about educating, residents about, what they should be considering as they transition to something else. And it's got to be something that they may not be familiar with. So they've got to get people reassured that it will work and that, there's people ready to do that kind of work, and that the town expects that the town, is going to expect that work is done, because it's something that we all are breathing in as residents, and we're all, going to be stuck with the warming climate. We all have to start, making changes.
But in addition to this sort of mom influence of do the right thing or I'll be very disappointed with you, the town can do more than that, right? Town meeting has legislated around this. Most recently in the town meeting that just wrapped up in the beginning of June. So tell us about what Brookline town meeting did in this most recent town meeting related to new construction or substantial renovations and fossil fuel free buildings or fossil fuel free heating.
Sure. So we just passed in town meeting 2 warrant articles around fossil fuel free. And the Attorney General's office has made it clear that they don't want mandates, but incentives seem to be something that may be the mechanism that's going to work here. So what we passed at town meeting were incentives so that if you are applying for a special permit, the expectation is if you want that special permit, you're going to have your project be fossil fuel free. And if you're not willing to have it fossil fuel free, then that permit's going to expire in about 5 years, and you're going to have to apply to get to renew it. And so we're hoping that, people, when they're seeing that process, will, take a serious look at fossil fuel free systems, because the cost parity is there. We've got the technology down. It works in cold weather climates. There's no reason not to be using it.
And to be clear for viewers at home, when we say special permits, what we mean is you want to build an addition on your home or build a new structure, and what you want to build is not entirely consistent within the rules of zoning. You want to do something above and beyond what the law permits you to do by right. And so if you want something, you got to provide something. That's kind of the idea. You don't have to, you could build your smaller structure and not need a special permit. And then you can go ahead and put all the oil fired and gas fired equipment you want in, as long as it's not a fire hazard. The idea here is if you want more than the minimum that you're allowed, then we expect something from you. Is that a fair description?
Yes, that's right. Yep. So, so it's an incentive. If you want the special permit, you got to do this, to get it. The other thing that was passed at town meeting pertains to overlay districts. And it was specifically the Emerald Island Special District, which is Route 9 and Brookline Avenue, where the Hilton Garden Hotel is.
And where Brookline Ice and Coal is. And
that's right. Yes. So that little island of 8 properties has a fossil fuel free requirement now to build with a density bonus, if that's something that you're seeking. And it's mostly all undeveloped properties, so it would be pertaining to future development.
So if you've got a parcel there and you want to build something more sizable and therefore more profitable, you need to be consistent with our vision for the future. Got it. So that makes a ton of sense to me. And I hope it makes a ton of sense to viewers, because we're out of time to ask follow-up questions. Folks, thank you for tuning into Brookline Interactive Group. Kathleen Scanlon, the co-coordinator of the Mothers Out Front Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. Thank you for coming on the show and dropping some motherly knowledge on us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share all this with your viewers. Really appreciate it.
We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye now.